Okay, so my name is Lila, and I'll be presenting today. And fellow Master Gardener Betsy Hafner is going to be my co-host. And we're going to talk about growing your own microgreens. And mostly I'll be talking about growing them indoors, although you can grow them outdoors too, but I'll be focusing on indoor growing. And our agenda today, we have just a couple of housekeeping announcements I'll go through really quickly and get to our content. And at the end, we'll have some resources and references for you. So our housekeeping items, we are recording. We ask that you please turn off your camera to save bandwidth. Place your microphone on mute when you're not using it. And I'll stop every now and then for questions. And so you can ask your questions aloud during that time. Or if you don't want to forget your question, you can put it in the chat and Betsy will be monitoring that. And so when I pause for questions, she'll be passing those questions along to me. And at the end, if you want a recording of this presentation, I'm sorry, a PDF of this presentation, you can email us at mgsandburn@ucanr excuse me, .edu. And if you also want to save the chat, because Betsy will be putting some links in the chat, there are the instructions right there for how to do that. You click on the three dots in the top right of the chat window and then click save. So basically who we are, I'm going to do this really quickly because this is a short talk. Master gardeners are trained volunteers. Excuse me, we share peer-reviewed research primarily from the University of California on all kinds of gardening, soil health, and seed saving topics. And we're part of the UC's Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources. Here are some related programs also under the UC Cooperative Extension programs, including a seed saving library. And there's a Facebook page for the seed saving library. You can go check that out. And we have just a couple of quick public service announcements. One is about the citrus greening disease. It is carried by an insect called the Asian citrus psyllid, and it affects all kinds of citrus trees. There is no cure or remedy for it at this point. Hopefully we will get one, but at this point we don't. So basically the way we prevent the spread is by not sharing any stems, leaves, or cuttings. And if you're in the quarantine area shown on the map, definitely do not share any citrus and keep ants out of your citrus trees. We also have an emerging pest called the black fig fly. There are some links there where you can check out what this thing does to your figs and all about it. And I'm just wrapping those PSAs up real quick because we're going to get to our presentation. So microgreens, what are they exactly? Microgreens are vegetables and herbs that we harvest while they're young, but after they're sprouts and before they're what's called baby greens. So when the plant first starts to sprout, then it gets those first little leaves. And so after it gets that first and maybe the second set of leaves, when they're about 1 to 3 inches tall, that's when they're called microgreens. If you let them keep growing more than that, then they're called baby greens when they're, actual leaves, big leaves. So why would we even be interested in microgreens? Well, they're nutritionally dense. They've got a lot higher nutrient levels than mature greens. They pack between 4 and 40 times more nutrients, depending what kind of greens we're talking about, than their fully grown counterparts. So these include things like protein, which is, of course, for muscle growth and development, and vitamins C, E, and K, and beta carotene and lutein. And that's according to a study conducted by the University of Maryland. Microgreens are also really tasty. They add a lot of color and variety to whatever you're eating. You can grow greens that have sort of a peppery taste like micro radishes, or arugula. You can go for colored chards and bright amaranths and blue kales. So there's a lot of different kinds of microgreens that can bring interest and color and phytonutrients to your meals. Another good reason to grow microgreens is they're so easy. Within 7 to 10 days, some types of microgreens, maybe 2 weeks max, you're ready to harvest them. So, and they're very easy to grow indoors. Why are they so expensive to buy in stores? If you go and try to buy microgreens in the stores, if you look at the per pound cost, it can be anywhere from $25 to $50 compared to mature greens. And why is that? Because they require inputs such as fresh soil for every batch or new grow mats if they're being grown on mats. They need sterilized growing trays to prevent, mold and rot. And they have to take a lot of care in their transport because obviously they're perishable. So you can get a lot of savings if you grow them yourself. Better to grow your own. You can grow them indoors or out. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be focusing on indoor growing today. There are so many types of seeds available. I'll list some of them in a couple of slides. They're easy to grow and harvest, and as I said before, you're going to save money. All you need to grow microgreens is some type of tray, some soil, and a little spot where they can get some sunlight and some seeds, and of course some water. So for the tray, you can buy a tray, or better yet, you can repurpose one of those old flats that you get from the garden center with little seedlings in it, or any other handy sort of tray or container. It's nice if you cover the bottom with weed cloth or burlap, and that'll just help dirt from leaking out the holes in the bottom. You have to make sure there's holes in the bottom. The soil can be actual soil from your garden, or there are soilless growing mats, some of them made from coconut fiber. You can actually even use a paper towel. You can use peat or vermiculite or perlite. So you just need some type of soil or growing medium that is clean and preferably sterile. You can put together your own materials, or you can buy kits online or in the garden center. Let me pause right there for any questions because I've been going kind of quickly. Anybody have any questions? Betsy?
I have a question. So if you're growing them on paper towels, when the seedlings start rooting into the paper towels, you just do like a haircut on top of the paper towels?
That's exactly right.
Oh, that's cool. I never thought about that.
A haircut.
Very cool. Okay, that was it for me.
Yeah. Any other questions? Betsy, anything in the chat?
There's nothing in the chat. I was just wondering, kind of the same thing, but I was wondering about a sponge.
I have not come across anyone suggesting using a sponge, so I don't really know.
Okay.
Yeah, can't answer that one. Okay, moving along. I just thought it would be interesting to list out all the different types of herbs and vegetables that you can sprout. And this is obviously not a complete list, but just to show you how many things are here. Peas are the easiest to grow and probably one of the most popular vegetables to grow as sprouts or microgreens, followed by sunflowers, which are also very popular. They have a nutty taste and they're crunchy. Radishes are the fastest to sprout. Broccoli sprouts are packed with nutrients. Arugula is kind of spicy, but it's not as heavy a taste or as peppery a taste as the mature herb. As you can see, this list is long. Everything from fenugreek to dill to beets, mustard greens, Swiss chard, garlic chives. If you want to add like a little garlicky zest to a salad, you can grow yourself some garlic chives, microgreens. The microgreens are grown with regular seeds. So you can purchase them wherever you would normally buy seeds, either online, at a local garden center, at a nursery, from seed swaps or seed libraries. It's always best to look for certified organic seeds or seeds that are not treated. Do not use seeds that have been treated with fungicides because that's not good for you. And there's also seeds that are made into pellets and sold as pellets. Those are more expensive and they're not really economical for use as microgreens. But once you've got the hang of it and you've grown, 1 or 2 trays of microgreens, if you want to, you can buy seeds in bulk, and that way you'll save even more money. So getting started, I think I mentioned before, make sure that whatever container you use has drainage holes. You're going to line it with burlap. I think I mentioned that. Or if you don't have burlap, you can just use 4 thicknesses of paper towel. You're going to choose your soil mix or your seed starting mix. Make sure it's labeled organic or free of chemicals, because your microgreens are going to draw most of their nutrition from the soil and water. So fill the container up with the moistened soil. Make sure to moisten the soil before you put it in, and fill it up within 1 inch from the top, and then sprinkle the seeds generously over the entire area. Generously, not like you would if you were planting in a container bed, but just like really coat the entire area, and then cover very lightly with soil, very lightly. Use a spray bottle to moisten the top. You want to moisten it, but you do not want to drench it. You don't want them to, to rot. So they shouldn't be like sitting heavy in water. They should just be moist. You can cover the tray, or you can keep it in a dark place until the seeds sprout, and then put them in a sunny window for the last couple of days. For safety, make sure you either compost the soil that is used from the harvested microgreens or the growing medium and start with fresh. And again, that's to avoid any mold or decay and related bacteria that could accumulate. We don't want that. And as I said before, avoid drenching them. You don't want rot or mold or decay, and don't eat them if you see any signs of mold or decay. With all that said, microgreens are safer to grow than sprouts due to the lower seed density and better airflow. Sprouts are grown very densely, like in a jar or something. And so with microgreens, they get better airflow, so they're safer. You can start a new batch once a week, and that way, as one batch is starting to be ready to harvest, then the other one is sprouting. So by the time you finish them, you'll always have some on hand. If your container has a cover of its own, keep it off once the seeds have sprouted. You want to leave them room to grow. And to harvest them, you're going to just snip them, as I mentioned to Maggie's question. You're going to snip them just above the soil to harvest, and it's after their true leaves appear. So you're going to wait for those like 1 or 2 little beginning leaves, and then the true leaves will appear. That's when you're going to harvest them. So now you've got all these microgreens. How are you going to use them? They're very versatile and flavorful, and they can complement all kinds of things. You can throw them on a pizza or a flatbread. You can spice up a salad. You can put them in a sandwich. I sprouted some lentils the other day. Now, these were sprouts. They weren't microgreens, but I'm just saying. I put them in a sandwich and it was fantastic. So any kind of sandwich or wraps, you can throw them in soups and stews. You can put them on top of tacos. You can juice them. So you can throw them in a handful in when you're making a smoothie. You can add them to an omelet or a frittata. So they're just really, really versatile. They're a nutritional powerhouse, easy, inexpensive to grow indoors, and you can eat them in so many ways. So it's really a easy way to do some growing. And again, all you need is a container, some soil or soil-less growing medium, and some seeds and some water. That's it. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you for joining us for that. There are some resources. Some of them are fact sheets and blog articles. And then I also put in here some places where you can buy seeds and or kits. Some of the kits are really nice, and make it just that much easier if that's even possible. So any last questions before we finish up?
Just give me a second